Okay, hi, Justin Greetham. Another episode of a ride out across Thirsk, Sowerby in North Yorkshire. In today's episode, I'm taking you down the Thirsk and Sowerby flats, starting off outside the parochial hall here in Sowerby. On my right hand side, we've got a farmer's field, which is where we all meet, congregate and walk our dogs. With magnificent views across the Sutton Bank, the North York Moors National Parks and the White Horse. And it's an interesting field actually, because it's evidence of a ridge and farrow agricultural method, whereby using wooden ploughs they used to carve these ridges into the fields, so that of course they could plant their crops at the tops of the ridges and allow for drainage to go down into the shallows, and you know it's created a field which has got lots of small hills which are quite fun to navigate across with your pets. On my left hand side we're coming up to where Miss Werner used to live. You'll know Miss Werner and her eccentricities from the writings of James Herriot. She is otherwise known as Mrs. Pumphrey, and her pet was called Tricky Woo. Together with her sister, they purchased the land on my right hand side so they can get unfettered views across Sutton Bank and the White Horse, so they weren't short of a few bob. And it just kind of echoes some of the eccentricities of the Werner sisters. They lived in a large house with a Tricky Woo that was heavily pampered and of course required the attention of the famous vet Alf Wright, otherwise known as James Herriot, who also used to live in Sowerby, on Topcliffe Road in actual fact, and benefited from some of the fantastic characters and stories and people and conversations and community that existed in Thirsk and Sowerby. On my left we've got the children's play park, where you can obviously bring your children along to unwind, play basketball, football, whatever your tipple. On my right we've got the flats, which only recently hosted Thirsk and Sowerby Festival. Fantastic festival, it's a free festival. I recommend you come along and visit the festival next year in August. Great for communities and families, and because it's free, obviously it encourages all people, great and small. My left hand side we've got the Thirsk Bowling Club. We've also got Meadowfields Retirement Home, where I think it has about 52 individual self-contained flats. We've got the swimming pool on my right, which in actual fact, because it's on land which is owned by the community, it's and part of a charity, the actual swimming pool was built, I think around the 1970s, 1971, in response to a couple of fatalities that occurred in Codbeck. It's the river that runs through Thirsk. Or was it the River Swale? I can't remember. But there was a public outcry because of the fact that these three boys unfortunately lost their lives due to wanting to swim in the river. And so the community of Thirsk clubbed together, and with the support of the local council, built Thirsk swimming pool, which today has recently gone through a renovation, courtesy of Hamilton District Council, what is North Yorkshire Council, offering sauna, aqua aerobics, gymnasium, swimming, all kinds of really modern, up-to-date opportunities for you to stay fit and keep active. So there's quite a lot of development happening in Thirsk and Sowerby at the moment. On my left you'll notice there's a lot of scaffolding around an old building which is being refurbished into flats. We've also got some new houses here which are on a site that used to be an abattoir. The butcher that used to supply all the meat for the local residents used to obviously prepare their meat in the abattoir, until of course legislation deemed that you could no longer do that without a variety of different certificates. So it's an interesting legacy, and obviously part of a heritage where Thirsk is very much an agricultural town. Its market attracted livestock from all over the county. And our library today is now part of an old people's home, otherwise known as Meadowfields. So for those of you who do check in your winter years, looking for something to read, great place to go. And also a great place to visit for those of you visiting Thirsk for the first time. Harriet Hospice on my left, again going through refurbishment. Originally founded almost 100 years ago with only 5 beds. Today it's a hospice looking to accommodate obviously the local population. We've got the Ritz Cinema straight ahead of me, opened in 1912 to celebrate, if not support, movies under the heading of the silent era, the Charlie Chaplins, the Buster Keatons. Today it's modernized, it's a lot more up to date with support for digital surround sound, 4K, and it's a great little cinema. I think one of the longest running volunteer-led cinemas in the country. You must come and, just experience the film. Sowerby Institute on my left-hand side is where obviously you can catch some live music, live entertainment, a game of snooker, again, bingo, beetle rallies, a chance for the community to come together. And I think this is one of the charming parts about living here in Thirsk and Sowerby, is that sense of community, which of course you don't get in the larger cities. It still has that very local feel to it, partly because of course we're based here in North Yorkshire, and you could argue that we're far from the madding crowd, and we kind of like it that way. Yeah, we've got the railway station, which of course is on the East Coast Railway line, to allow us to move between London and Thirsk in about 2.5 hours. But for as long as that's out of town, that's great. For those people living in town, we've got these little green spaces, opportunities to walk the dog, share stories, enjoy the architecture, and of course celebrate in the writings of Alf Wright, otherwise known as James Herriot. And some of the characters which I touched upon earlier on, such as Mrs. Pumphrey and her charming little naughty dog, Tricky Woo, who lived in the house which is on my right-hand side. So I hope you enjoyed that episode of A Ride Out across Thirsk and Sowerby. Again, my name is Justin Greetham. If you'd like to see more, do share, post, retweet, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.